Hey, all you Misfit entrepreneurs, welcome to another edition of Lessons for Hannah. Many years ago, I introduced a new format alongside our regular episodes called Lessons for Hannah. And Hannah is my daughter, and really one of the main inspirations, if not the original main inspiration for the Misfit entrepreneur. And I wanted to have a place where she could go and learn from her dad and his Misfit friends throughout her life, even after I'm gone. And if you haven't listened to the first episode of Lessons for Hannah, I urge you to do so, as it gives you some more background and tells the amazing story of how Hannah came to be in our lives. These lessons for Hannah are very short, useful, and sometimes comical lessons that I want to share with you and give to Hannah to help in her life and your life. And because I want Hannah to have these lessons for her life, I'm going to speak as though I am talking directly to her. So these episodes are a lot of fun. And if you think there's a lesson that we should include in these episodes, please don't hesitate to send it over to us at support@misfitentrepreneur.com. We'd love to share it. As a reminder, if you're new to watching this show on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and give the video a like and comment as well. We do our best to respond to all comments as timely as possible. Okay, so here goes this week's lesson for Hannah. Hannah, this will not be a long episode. In fact, it's only a few minutes, but it may be one of the most important lessons that I share with you. You've asked me a question several times over the years, and I've given you a pretty standard answer for it. And I recently was spurred to think deeper about the question by several events and just things I've seen. And first, the question is pretty straightforward. Dad, what is heaven? Now, the typical answer is something along the lines of a place where you'll go to live in eternity and happiness surrounded by our loved ones. It's a place of no pain, no sadness, a place where we are a perfect version of ourselves and the best that we can be. It's really hard to imagine how amazing that it will be, and probably cannot fathom everything that really waits for us there, right? While I believe there's a lot of accuracy in that statement, I recently realized that heaven is much more, and we may be able to get a little tiny taste of it here on earth. And if you're listening or watching this and saying, okay, isn't this a show for entrepreneurs and people looking to better themselves? Do we have to get into these topics? Well, the answer is yes. First, because I'm sharing this for my daughter, Hannah. And second, because in just a bit, I'm going to share how this does relate to entrepreneurship and improving yourself. But back to the question. What is heaven? We were recently listening to a message from our pastor where this topic came up, and their answer to the question was so simple, so succinct. It just made me think deeper about it. And first, the answer was right. It was very simple. It was, heaven is the eternal presence of God, and the opposite of heaven is the eternal absence of God. After all, what is heaven if not for God's eternal surrounding presence, right? So as I thought more deeply on this, I realized that while there is no such thing as heaven on earth, we can do well to prepare ourselves and live as best as we can into one on our journey. We do this by having a relationship with God, and more importantly, Jesus, because he's the vehicle with which God sent to pave the way for us to go to heaven. So I asked myself, can I live a better life by doing all I can to keep God and Jesus' presence around me here on earth? And the answer is obvious. It's yes. And then I thought about what could be the closest thing to heaven on earth. To me, it's a few things. First, it is that deep relationship with the presence of God and Jesus in our lives that we should seek and continuously seek. Second, it's living every single moment that we have with our loved ones and ones that we care about to the absolute fullest. And third, it is putting our effort and focus into work that not only fulfills us in some way, but makes a difference for those around us. Now, the first two are pretty straightforward, right? Continuously seek and grow your relationships with the Almighty and cherish every moment with your loved ones. But the third, to me, is all about entrepreneurship. To me, from a work standpoint, entrepreneurship is the closest thing that we can come from a work standpoint to heaven on earth. God created us to be free and live in his image. He is the original entrepreneur. Sadly, we failed at being free and living in his image with the mistakes that we made in the Garden of Eden. And for most of human history, we lost that freedom in some way or another. With the creation of the United States came an opportunity to really unleash entrepreneurship and create freedom that had not been seen up until that point. All of a sudden, a lowly factory worker could become the founder of a company and elevate their status. A serf working under a feudal lord in Europe with enough courage could leave everything behind and live better than the lord that they worked for. There are countless examples of how entrepreneurship unleashed the human spirit and potential all over the world, and that continues today. In fact, more progress was made for humankind in the last 200 or so years since the founding, really, of the United States than the 5,000 years before it. So, while we must prepare for the true heaven and the ever presence of God by seeking it out all that we can in our lives here on earth, we can also maybe possibly experience a taste of it through entrepreneurship and fulfilling our potential. I also contend that in doing so, we will improve ourselves and become the best versions of our earthly selves. And that's really the big realization that I had in thinking about this topic. We have the opportunity to create a tiny slice of heaven, and we should strive to do so in those three ways. Hannah, the answer to your question is just that. Welcome the presence of God every day and work on your relationship with Jesus. If you're lucky, you'll get a taste of heaven throughout life and then get its fullness when you pass on to eternity. While on earth, live into your potential and do everything you can to make a difference for those around you. Love and cherish your family and those other loved ones that you have. And I believe that entrepreneurship is the best vehicle for that in a work standpoint. But of course, I'll support you in whichever path that you choose to be your best. I love you, Dad.